Hello everyone, welcome to ACE Online and welcome to daily current affairs session. So we will cover the current affairs of yesterday as well as today. Yesterday we had only two current affairs, so that's why we did not conduct. So today we will cover yesterday's as well as today's current affairs. First one that we are going to cover is Jan Aushadhi Kendras. So this is part of schemes and policies. Next one about nitrous oxide, which is also called as laughing gas. So this is part of environment. Next, Truenat platform. This is related to the science and technology. We will see what actually this is and why it was there in news, right? Then global gender gap report. Report from social issues, right? Social issues is a very important for current affairs. Most of the questions come from the current affairs itself. Then United Nations Convention to Combat Desertification, right? So this is part of again environment. Next, snow leopards, again environment, species. Then last one, G7 summit, which is happening currently, right? So this is the 50th session and this is part of international relations. Finally, factual pointers and practice questions. So these are all the articles that we are going to cover today. Yeah. So first one, Jan Aushadhi Kendras. Right? So I hope my voice as well as video is clear. In case of any issues, do let me know. Yes. So first article, that is Jan Aushadhi Kendras. Recently, Mauritius has taken assistance from India to conduct implement the Jan Aushadhi Kendras, right? So these are all the Kendras which will give the generic medicines, right? The context is Nepal has also asked, it has also approached India that we also need assistance in establishing the Jan Aushadhi Kendras, right? So they will ask you in exam point of view, what are Jan Aushadhi Kendras, the purpose, which ministry has, is being taken care of this, if there is any features, when it was launched, if there is any special features also, you need to know, right? So that type of questions can be possible from this particular article. Now, let's understand what actually is a Jan Aushadhi Kendras. You all know that the health is the most important thing for humans, and that's why the medications that we are using are very costlier. If you are using the medications, it takes a lot of cost, especially from poor people. And the report says that many of the report, out of the total expenditure made by the individuals on their health, out of total expenditure, 67% in India is a out-of-pocket expenditure. That means only 33% comes from the government support or insurances, right? Else, all the 67% of money that we are spending towards the health, 67% is out-of-pocket expenditure, right? So because of this, because the expenditure burden on health has increased, right? So that's why Government of India has come up with the initiative called Jan Aushadhi Kendras, where they are going to give the medications of generic medicines, right? Rather than giving the exact the medication, they are giving the generic medicines. Generic medicines are those medicines which are having the same quality, same efficiency, same application of the original medicine, but they are made with the lesser cost, right? There is a lot of patents and all involved. You don't need to worry about it. Just understand that generic drugs have the same application, same quality of application, but the only thing is they are cheaper, right? So to promote that, Government of India has launched Pradhan Mantri Bharatiya Jan Aushadhi Pariyojana. So there was already a scheme. This scheme was launched to promote such type of generic medicine, right? So to promote this scheme, they have also come up with the Jan Aushadhi Kendras. That means these are physical shops, medical shops only, but exclusively available of generic medicines, availability of the generic medicines, right? So this is the scheme, and under that they have established this Aushadhi Kendras that are medicines, right? Medicine shops. And this initiative was put forward by Ministry of Chemicals. This Pradhan Mantri Jan Aushadhi Pariyojana Kendras was established by the Ministry of Chemicals and Fertilizers, and this initiative was put forwarded in 2008. So this is also important for us, right? Aim we have already seen, to promote generic medicines which are affordable, right, which are affordable to the poor people, right. So this is also important one. So objective we have already discussed, fine. So this not only sell exclusively generic medicines, they also sell like normal medications, right, like paracetamol, all those things are also available in this for the Jan Aushadhi Kendra, so that people who are poor, they can afford here, right. And all this scheme, all this implementation, what type of funding is going, all these things are handled by Pharmaceuticals and Medical Devices Bureau of India. So this organization was established by the Department of Pharmaceuticals to specifically to take care of this promotion of the generic medicines. So this organization is promoting the Jan Aushadhi Kendras. So this will also be asked in the exam. Which organization is responsible to implement the Jan Aushadhi Kendras and all, right? Then whoever are establishing the Jan Aushadhi Kendras, who like anyone can establish, like state governments, any private organization, you can also establish it. But there should be a B Pharmacy or D Pharmacy degree holder who knows the medications to how it can be allocated. So that person has to be there to manage. But anyone can establish these kendras anywhere in India, right? For that purpose, government will support with 5 lakh rupees. For every Jan Aushadhi Kendra, they will allocate 5 lakh rupees, right? So this is the feature of the scheme, and who can establish is also important, right? These are about the Jan Aushadhi Kendras and Pradhan Mantri Bharatiya Jan Aushadhi Pariyojana. Fine. So this is about the scheme. Any doubts in this? Very good evening, Jashwant Keshav. So all these features about this particular Jan Aushadhi Kendras are very, very important. Try to remember. Next one about nitrous oxide. Nitrous oxide. There is a report in the Hindu which was given that study ranks India the second largest emitter of nitrous oxide. Whenever there is the news article won't cover in detail. They won't say what actually is a nitrous oxide, what is the composition, all these things they won't say. You need to prepare from the internet sources or from videos, right? So this is how you need to prepare for the exam. If you just read the plain article, you won't get in detail. You cannot answer most of the questions, right? So this is the article heading. But yes, before knowing what is the status, we also need to know about what actually is a nitrous oxide. What is the effect of it? Where it is used? All these type of questions can be asked in the exam, right? So nitrous oxide, which is commonly called as laughing gas or happy gas, right? Whenever you experience this nitrous oxide, you will laugh automatically, right? This is also called as happy gas or laughing gas. And this is a colorless, odorless and non-flammable gas. Non-flammable means even if you fire, it won't lit, right? So it does not have capacity to flame. That is also important feature. That means it is not harmful in terms of the fire, right? So this type of statements can also be asked in the exam. And if you experience that, as I said, we will experience the laughing automatically through euphoria. Fine. Then it is soluble in water and vapors are heavier than air. That means this nitrous oxide, if you pump into the air, it will drop because it is heavier than air. Only if it is lighter than air, it can float. Else it will fall. Right. Mostly this is heavier than air. That is also one important feature. And it is soluble in water means it can mix like salt, how it is dissolved. So it can also be soluble in water, right? And where they are used, most prominently dentists as well as in the medical professionals, they use for making the senses mute, right? So this is used to sedate. This is used to sedate the patients to take any small surgical operations, right? These are the features of nitrous oxide. And it is also used as a propellant in food aerosols. That means it will prolong the lifespan of the packed foods. There also it is being used, fine. And it is also used in automotive industry, that is vehicle industry, which can enhance the engine performance, whatever the engines drive the vehicles. So here also it is used. This is also important feature, right? And one very, very important element of nitrous oxide is that it is a greenhouse gas. So what is greenhouse gas? This is the earth and this is atmosphere above us, right? So all are above us, we have an atmosphere. So this nitrous gas, if released into the atmosphere, it can capture the sunlight. So whatever the sunlight coming towards the earth's surface, it will usually go back away above the atmosphere. But if there is a CO2 or nitrous oxide gases, they can capture the heat, and then within our atmosphere, the temperatures will rise, that is called as a greenhouse gas. So NO2 is the third largest contributor after carbon dioxide and methane gas, but it is more potent. That means it can capture intense heat more than CO2. It can capture more heat, but this is the third in terms of the higher contributions. It is the third after CO2 and methane, right? So these are all the features. Now what does the report says? This will also be asked in the exam. The report was given by Earth System Science Data Report. The report says that nitrous oxide emissions has grew between 1980 till 2020. Recently, 40% increase has been observed, right? This is also one important feature. And the largest contributor for the emission of these gases is nothing but the China. China is the top emitter of nitrous oxide, followed by India and USA. So India rank is second, first one is China, and third is USA, right? That is also important. And the total nitrous oxide gases that are being released into the Earth's atmosphere, India is contributing 11% after China, which is contributing 16% of the emissions, right? So all these features are important, fine. Now, the biggest emission sources from where these nitrous oxides are coming, that is also very, very important. The main contributor is agriculture. 74% of nitrous oxide being released into the atmosphere are not coming from agriculture and agriculture practices. So agriculture is the main contributor for the emissions of this nitrous oxide. All these are the report details. So they will ask you in any types of questions from this data. Fine. So that is about the nitrous oxide. Next one, about Truenat platform. Truenat platform. Recently there is a 77th World Health Assembly is going on in Geneva. Right? World Health Organization is also one of the organizations which conducts the World Health Assembly. This is going on in Geneva, Switzerland. Right? On the sidelines of this meeting, there was a discussion on Truenat platform, which was developed by India. They have praised this platform, Truenat platform, that it is reducing the cases of tuberculosis. Early detection of tuberculosis is happening. So they have praised this platform. That's why there was an article on this, right? Now we need to know about the tuberculosis. We need to know about the Truenat platform. What actually this is and who developed all these things also has to be known, right? So we will come to that, but let's understand what actually is a tuberculosis. Tuberculosis is an infection. It is a disease caused by Mycobacterium tuberculosis. So this disease, tuberculosis, is caused by bacteria. Don't confuse, this is the most important fact that you need to remember. They will ask you whether virus, fungus, something like that they will give. But this is the bacteria caused with the name Mycobacterium tuberculosis. Any organ of our body can be affected by this Mycobacterium tuberculosis, this bacteria, but specifically lungs are the most commonly affected by tuberculosis. Right? Lungs are the most affected organs, right? Lungs are the most affected organs caused by this particular bacteria, but that does not mean that other organs will not be affected. It can affect any of the organs, right? Then how it is transmitted? It is transmitted through air. That means if a person who is having tuberculosis cough and the droplets come into the air, and if the person who is nearby breathes that particular airborne infection or bacteria, that can spread from one person to the other person. So it is like a communicable disease. Communicable disease are those diseases which can transmit from one person to the other person, right? So this is a communicable disease. And TB, tuberculosis, is the treatable disease as well as we have vaccine. We do have a vaccine. It can also be treated using the drugs. There is a medication also. But here one important point is that the highest cases for any disease is being reported from tuberculosis itself. The global cases, major cases from the different disease, tuberculosis contributes the highest. Even though it is treatable and curable, also we have a vaccine, right? So this is a concerning thing for the whole world, because even after having the medications, it is the highest contributor for diseases, right? So the vaccine is BCG. It was invented by Albert Calmette and Camille Guerin. So that's why BCG means bacterial Calmette and Guerin vaccine. So BCG vaccine is the one which can, mitigate this tuberculosis disease. And this was first used in 1921. It was discovered way back in 1921, and India deployed this first in 1948, and now tuberculosis vaccine is part of National TB Control Program, which was launched in 1962. So BCG vaccine we have put under the National TB Control Program, which was launched in 1962, right? And also this vaccine not only can mitigate tuberculosis, but also it can be useful in other respiratory and bacterial infection as well. So this is the most important vaccine that is available, right? Now coming to the Truenat platform. Truenat is a medical checkup equipment. It will collect the blood sample, and there is a software which can study the blood and it can identify the tuberculosis, right? It was introduced in 2017 to identify tuberculosis, and also it identify other diseases as well, other bacterial diseases as well, right, through the blood samples. Now it was developed by Goa-based Malbio. Malbio is a private company, so they may ask you this also. Malbio, the private company, has introduced this Truenat platform. Fine. Now it is being used in health centers as well as private tests as well in the localities. So it is being deployed in a very huge manner, and also that's why there was a prize in the World Health Assembly about the India's initiative of Truenat platform. Fine. So this is about the Truenat platform. Any doubts in this? Let's move to the next important article, Global Gender Gap Report. Global Gender Gap Report. So this, what is the criteria and what are all the the rankings, all these are very important for our exam, right? The context is Global Gender Gap Report 2024 was released by World Economic Forum. World Economic Forum, right? So private organization. It has released the Global Gender Gap Report 2024. Fine. Now we need to know about the rankings, what is the index, all the things are very, very important for our exams. Fine. So it estimates the gender disparity. That means from male person to the female person, what is the difference in terms of economics? That means how they are earning, right? In terms of polity, there are 4 index. That is economic participation. That means how a woman or a man can participate in the economic, right, economic elements, and then earning for themselves, right? Economic participation and opportunity is one criteria. Total 4 criteria are there. Then educational attainment, then health and survival, second, and third is political empowerment. That means how they are empowered through political elements. That means in their expressing their rights, right, or expressing their needs, participating in the elections, right? All these comes under the political empowerment. By taking all these 4 index, it estimates different countries, how they are performing, how there is a difference between men and women. So this is how they estimate, right? It aims to serve as a compass to track the gender inequality existing in the societies across the continent, across the world as well, right? It is published every year by World Economic Forum. Every year it is published by World Economic Forum. Now coming to the rankings, this is very important for us. At least top 3 countries you need to, the score is calculated based on 0 to 1. 1 means the greatest gender equality, 0 means there is a gender inequality, right? The top 3 countries at least you need to remember: Iceland, Finland and Norway. These are the 3 countries. Next, the top 10 countries we have directly screenshotted from the report: New Zealand, Sweden, Nicaragua, Germany, Namibia, Ireland, Spain. So these are the top 10 countries, but anyway you need to just remember the top 3 countries and just glance through the top 10 countries, right? So this is the great. So this is the rankings. Now we also need to know about the bottom ones. If you see the bottom ones, these are the 3 countries which are bottom: Chad, Pakistan and Sudan. Chad, Pakistan and Sudan are the bottommost countries. Also you need to know about India. India has ranked at 129. Unfortunately, we are lagging behind in gender equality, right? So India is ranked at 129 with score 0.641. This is the status of India. This is the bottom 3 and these are the top 3 countries, right? Iceland, Finland, Norway. Very important. And the different 4 criteria we have seen: economic participation, educational attainment, health and political empowerment. Among them, the average score of the world is 68.5%, and the best one we have achieved is in terms of health and survival index. Fortunately, health and survival index, we are all performing well. This is the highest ranking, followed by education and attainment. We are lagging behind in terms of political empowerment. That means women participation in politics is almost very less, negligible, right? So this is very dismal. We have to improve here, right? And then economic participation as well. Fine. Now, let's also know about important observation made by the report, important observations they have made. That is, the share of women in parliament has stagnated. So it was stagnated, it does not improving much since 2006, right? It is not decreasing, but yes, it is also not highly increasing. At the current rate of progress, the world, which is trying to have a gender equality across the countries, even if we are going with the same speed, it takes, whatever the speed that we are currently going on, it takes 134 years for us to have a gender parity in all aspects, right? It is going to take 134 years to be parity between the women and men. So this is very unfortunate. We should give equal importance to the women in terms of all the fields, right? That is again one important thing to be observed. And women constitute 28.2% in STEM technologies. STEM means science and technology, engineering, mathematics. So if you want to promote research, all these things, women participation has also to be increased. In terms of non-STEM work, their role is higher. See, 47.3%. So STEM are the ones which are more important, which create quality jobs, quality research, but their participation in the STEM technology is very less. But in terms of other things, their contribution is almost to 50%, right? Yes. In the case of India, we have seen India has ranked 129th. Last year, it was 127. So we have not improved, we have degraded our rank from 127 to 129. This is one important. And we are lagging behind Bangladesh, Nepal, Sri Lanka, Bhutan in the South Asia. Fine. India saw a small decline in educational and political empowerment, but their share in terms of education and all is increasing, right? Yeah. So you can also see, this is not very important, just to make you know the regions. We have different regions in the world: Europe, North America, Latin America, Eastern Asia and Pacific, Central Asia, Sub-Sahara Africa, Southern Asia. So we are here. This is ours, right? So we are lagging behind. Just Middle East and Northern Africa is behind us. Rest of all the regions are above us, right? Yes, you can also see we have a 4 index: economic, education, health and political empowerment. Not very important. Just know that political empowerment is a very lagging behind, the plain color, right? Education and health survival is good in almost all the regions except political empowerment and economic participation. So we need to focus on these 2 things to achieve the gender parity. Any doubts in this? Okay. Let's move to the next article. That is a very factual. You have to by heart the facts. Fine. United Nations Convention to Combat Desertification. So this is an initiative, environmental initiative. The context why we have taken this article is about 30th anniversary of UNCCD, United Nations Convention to Combat Desertification. What is desertification? Desertification means conversion of the fertile lands into the non-fertile. So they are very becoming, without any plants, their fertility has been decreasing because of industrial development, because of urbanization, all these things. The fertile lands, even the agriculture practices that we are doing. So because of this, the land quality is being degraded. So that process is called as desertification, right? So here, to combat this desertification, all the countries together have launched United Nations Convention to combat desertification under the United Nations itself, right? And this is the only legally binding treaty. That means whatever the provisions that being implemented, all the countries has mandatorily to be implemented. Certain things are voluntary in nature, certain initiatives are voluntary in nature, but this is the legally binding treaty. That means every country has to follow this agreement, right? Whoever have signed. The total 197 parties have been part of this country. That means 197 countries are there as part of this. The main aim is to protect the people in the dry land. So wherever the desertification is happening, wherever the plants reduction is happening, to protect them, they have launched this initiative, right? So it was established in 1994, a very, very important one. It was adopted in 1994, right? And for every 2 years, all the countries who are part of this agreement will meet, like how we have a UNFCCC COP, right? Recently 28th COP has also completed, right? That is every year. But here UNCCD COP, Conference of Parties, meet for every 2 years and they discuss the implementation, right? As part of these meetings, India has only once, it has hosted this summit in September 2019, right? And the main objectives of this agreement, the UNCCD, is to protect and restore land. Whatever the lands that has been degraded, they want to promote plantation and the fertility, right? That is one objective. And then other one is to come up with the bottom-up approach. That means don't go with a top bureaucratic approach. Come with the local people. Encourage the local people itself to promote these activities, right? So this is a bottom-up approach. So that is all about the UNCCD. So you need to know when it was launched, what is the objective, right? Under which organization, whether India is part. So all those things you need to know. Fine. Any doubts in this? Okay. Let's move to the next article, that is snow leopards. Snow leopards from environmental against species, that is important. Recently, researchers has found that snow leopards are actually carnivores, but it was found that they are also eating the plants. Usually, omnivorous will eat both veg as well as non-vegetarian, right? But here, these snow leopards are carnivores, that means they are non-vegetarians, but it was found that they are also eating the grasses. So that's the simple article, but the questions can be asked about the what actually are snow leopards, where they reside, what is the status in India. All these things are very, very important. So it is a very important article for us. Fine. So it is found in the mountainous region in the central and southern Asia. That means these snow leopards are only found in the Asia. In no other continent you will see the snow leopards. That is one important fact. And within India, it is mainly seen in Jammu, Kashmir, Ladakh, then Himachal Pradesh, Uttarakhand, Sikkim, Arunachal Pradesh, right? In these states, usually, Jammu Kashmir include Ladakh. Ladakh is actually the highest union territory to hold this. So these are other regions or the states which snow leopards are naturally found, right? Then Hemis National Park. We have a number of national park, and Hemis National Park, which is located in the Jammu Kashmir. This is also very important. This is now, present in Ladakh, not Jammu Kashmir. Now currently Hemis National Park is located in Ladakh. Right? So in this national park, we can see the snow leopards in a huge numbers. Fine. They play a key role as a top predator. That means they are one of the good position to know what is the status of local environment. Fine. Now conservation status, if you see, it is listed as vulnerable. So this is the one. The current IUCN protection status is vulnerable, a very important fact. Fine, and it is protected under the Convention on International Trade and Endangered Species. So it is also regulated under this particular convention, which is India is also part, and this is protected with the highest status under Appendix 1. Fine, and in the Wildlife Protection Act, it is also protected under Schedule 1. So this and then these three status is very important for us. Fine. Now about the estimation, recently the Ministry of Environment has released the report related to the numbers of snow leopards in India. This is also important because recently, few months back itself, it was estimated. This is the first ever scientific exercise conducted by Wildlife Institute of India, WII. So it has conducted the census. So according to the census, there are total 718 snow leopards in India. Very important. Total snow leopards in India are 718, right? So with the help of Mysuru Zoo as well as World Wildlife Fund, so they have conducted this exercise, right? It was conducted between 2019 to 2024. So it took 4 years to estimate these snow leopards. And the estimate number we have already seen, 718 are there in total. Out of that, 477 are present in the Ladakh. a very important one. So they may ask you which state has the highest snow leopards. It is nothing but Ladakh, followed by Uttarakhand, right? Top two you can remember. The total area that they are spreading, this is not very important. Fine, just to make you know, this is the report, right? That is the article about snow leopards. Yes, correct. Hemis National Park is the capital of world snow leopards. That is the national park which is having the highest snow leopards, right? Last article for today is G7 summit, Group 7 summit. So recently it is happening in Italy. Even our Honorable Prime Minister has reached there. He has also put in Instagram that he has reached, right? So G7 is a very important one. They have even invited, India is one of the participating countries. Even though India is not part of G7 countries, but still India was invited to participate as a nation, right? So this is the context. It is happening, the G7, this is the 50th summit. So there is a high chances that they are going to ask in the exam. This is the 50th summit of G7. Fine. So they are meeting in the Italy. This year the host is Italy. Now what is this Group 7? In 1973, there was an oil crisis because of wars in the Middle East. So there was an oil crisis. Fine, because oil was the most important thing to run industries or to run the vehicles, all these things. Oil is required. So there was an oil shocks in 1973, and then there is also financial stress. Because lack of oil, we don't also have the financial resources as well, because there is no industry at all. So there is a financial stress derived from the oil crisis. So they have met in 1975 for the first time. So the countries that they met was the top 6 global largest economies. Those years, there are 6 countries which were the largest in terms of economies. That is USA, UK, France, Germany, Japan and Italy. So these 6 countries together have formed this to discuss the financial things and oil related stress to deal among themselves, right? Later in 1976, Canada has also joined it. So in the beginning they have joined 6 countries, but later Canada also joined and became the G7. In 2003 or 2004, Russia also joined, but that was removed in 2013. In 2013, Russia was removed. It was G8, but from 2013 again they have removed the Russia because they have occupied the Crimea, which was small part of Ukraine. That's why they have removed, and since then it is called as G7. And what is the objective of G7? Just to collaborate and know the status of economy of the world. Also, whatever the decisions they take will influence the global world, because they are the top largest economies, right? So it does not have any permanent secretariat, no headquarters is there, and also no legal treaty is there. It is just an informal discussion, and whatever they take, they will implement on a discretion manner. There is no mandatory thing, right? There is no secretariat, there is no permanent laws, there is no even a rule book that these countries can follow, right? So, but anyway, as these 7 countries are the global economies, whatever the decision they take, it will be influencing the global world. That's why it is important for us to know. Right? So summary, if you see about this particular G7 summit, this is happening between June 13 to 15, 2024. Venue is Borgo Egnazia in Italy, and then it is hosted by Italy Prime Minister Meloni. Participants Canada, France, Germany, so all the G7 countries, and invited guests, India is also one of the invited guests along with the other countries. So this also you can know. Key topics for discussion, this is a natural thing, Ukraine conflict, Middle East, all these things they are going to discuss. Fine. This is about today's articles. Now, let's see some factual pointers before solving the questions. First fact, Indian Army has launched Vidyut Rakshak monitoring system. So they may ask you who has launched this recently, Vidyut Rakshak monitoring system. So it will enable the artificial intelligence Internet of Things, and they will monitor the borders and all. They can monitor anything related to the internal security. So it was launched by Indian Army. Next one, recently BRICS foreign ministers has discussed about the importance of prevention of an arms race in outer space. So we have a space, we are launching a lot of satellites and all, but none of the satellites are military elements or military satellites, because this agreement was drafted, and even we have outer space treaty also. This is just a draft treaty. That means it is not yet come into the picture or come into the implementation. It was just drafted by the countries in 2008, but it was not came into the implementation. And the objective of this treaty is to eliminate completely, to launch the military elements into the space. Space should be peacefully explored for any scientific things, but not for military things. So that is the objective of this treaty, right? Next one, GIMEX 2024, India, Japan, maritime exercise. It is not army or it is not air force, it is a maritime exercise between India and Japan, right? This year it is happening in Yokosuka in Japan. Fine, this is the 8th edition. This is the 8th edition. Okay, since its inception in 2012. So this is a fact. Next one, recently World Bank has released a report titled Global Economic Prospects Report. That means the world countries, how the economy prospects are growing. So it is released. So it is a big document. You don't need to worry about too much related to the data. Just know that who released this report. World Bank released Global Economic Prospects Report. Next one, 25th anniversary of the International Labour Convention 182. There is a previous question, I'll show you this. So under International Labour Organization, there was a convention or number 182, which takes care of worst forms of child labour. So the convention aims to eliminate completely the child labour. That is the convention number 182, right? And this was under the ILO. India also ratified this in 2017 along with the other convention which is called as number 138, ILO convention number 138. This 138 talks about the minimum age of employment, right? So minimum age to get into the employment is discussed under convention number 138, and about eliminating the worst forms of child labor, it was discussed under convention number 182. So this is the factual pointers, right? Now let's solve some practice questions from the topics that we have discussed. First one, what is the primary anthropogenic source of nitrous oxide emissions? Anthropogenic means man, through the intervention of man. Which one is the highest, biggest source for emissions of nitrous oxide? Industrial process, fossil fuel combustion, agriculture activities, particularly the use of fertilizers, waste management. So what is the answer for this? We have discussed for nitrous oxide. Correct. Sahana, Santosh, Srinath. Yes, a very direct question. Agriculture activities are the major, yes, Keshav, contributors for the nitrous oxide emissions. Next one, what is the primary objective of Jan Aushadhi kendras? What is the primary objective of Jan Aushadhi kendras? To provide expensive branded medicines, to promote traditional Indian medicine, to provide quality generic medicines at affordable prices, to export medicines to other countries. So with which objective we have launched the Jan Aushadhi kendras? So the answer is, we have discussed that to promote the generic medicines. So again a direct question. So answer is C again. Correct. All of you, Srinath, Santosh, Fun Channel, Ramya, Sahana, Keshav. Correct. Next one. Now it's lengthy statements after two simple questions. Consider the following statements regarding the United Nations Convention on Combat of Desertification. So UNCCD is the only legal binding international agreement that related to the sustainable land management, they are saying. So it is the only agreement they are saying. First statement. UNCCD was adopted in 1992 during Rio Earth Summit. During the Rio Earth Summit. This is the second statement. India has hosted a conference of parties in the session in 2019. So what are all the statements are correct? First statement, yes, it is the only legal treaty which takes care related to the land management. We have discussed this, right? There is no such other global agreement related to the land management. So first statement is correct. You can eliminate C. So this also we have discussed. India has hosted the conference only once, that is in 2019. So 3 should also be there. So now we are left with 1, 3 and 1, 2, 3, right? It was adopted in 1992 Rio Earth Summit. This is wrong. We have adopted in 1994. In Rio Earth Summit, we have adopted UNFCCC Convention and then Convention on Biodiversity, CBD, Aichi Biodiversity Targets, all those things we have adopted. But this UNCCD we have adopted in 1994. So answer is B. Yes, Santosh, Yasmin, Keshav and online have answered yes, correct. Next one about G7 grouping. Consider the following statements regarding the G7 group. The G7 group is intergovernmental organization consisting of the world's 7 largest advanced economies. The first statement. Second, China is a permanent member of G7 group. This is the second statement. The G7 group was originally formed as the G6 in 1970s. So this is the third statement. So what is the answer for this? First thing we have seen China was not part, right? We have seen whatever the list of the countries. So 2 should not be there. So you can eliminate 2 options, right? Now 1 is common, that means they are the advanced economies grouping. And yes, Canada has joined later, right? Before that it was formed with G6, the global 6 largest economies. So third statement is also correct and hence answer is B, right? 4 is B, 1 and 3. I don't know why none of you have answered it as correct, right? So China is, you can eliminate, and third is correct, G7. Later Canada was joined. So answer is B. Yes, Santosh, correct. Next, last question. This is asked in UPSC Civil Services 2018. This question was directly taken from UPSC Civil Service 2018. International Labour Organization's Convention 138 and 182 are related to what? Child labour, adaptation of agriculture practices to global climate change, regulation of food prices and food security, gender parity and the workplace. So these are the 4 things. So we have seen this is related to the eliminating the worst forms of child labor, and then 138 is talks about the minimum age for employment. So both indirectly are talking about the child labor, right? So answer is A. Yes, correct. Yes means Santosh online. So that is of all for today's session. Yes, Srinath, Keshav, Fun Channel, all of you are correct. So this is of today's session. I hope you have enjoyed. Have a great evening. Thank you.